Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting. Today is Friday, and this is a special Friday edition of our broadcast here at Focus on Liberia. I got good news for you. There's a gentleman that has been hiding. He has something to contribute to our national conversation. We got him here, and he's here to talk to Liberian people about the issues that matter. Let me welcome a dear friend and brother, Mr. George Tulay. George, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Ansu. I am so grateful to be here. I appreciate the invite. All right, I haven't really been hiding, you know. yeah, I was so much engaged, in everything Liberian for a very long time, and I got to a place where I just had to disengage from my own sanity. Yeah, because the frustration, going from Madame Salif to George Weah, it just increased the level of my anxiety regarding my country to a point that I just felt too hopeless. So I just had to disengage to be able to recalibrate, and then re-engage. So this is your platform is a good medium, that I can use to re-engage in issues like Liberia. So so I'm grateful. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for making that decision to re-engage because Liberia needs all of us. I see a friend, Ben Sanvi, watching. He said, much respect, George. Wow, great to see George. So there are Liberians who know you and have been wondering, well, why is this guy disengaging? Ben, thank you for joining us here. Folks, let's see what we have for you. And Josh will share a little bit about himself, just for those who don't know him, to get to know him. Our topic in this edition of Focus on Liberia is the CDC government actually pro-poor? This name pro-poor, this mantra pro-poor, this pro-poor policies that we've heard about that the CDC, has introduced to the Liberian people. We want to know whether our government is actually pro-poor. There's this big saying that, you know, by the fruits we shall know them. So we will look at the policies, the conduct, the behavior, and the programs of the government to see whether or not our government is actually proper. But before I can give you the highlights of the issues that we will be diving into as we try to discuss this topic, let me bring back George. George, not many people know you, so I would like for you at least a
Anthony,
minute or
Anthony, a
two.
lot of people know me. A lot of people know me. I told you I was a mainstay. Anyway, hey Ben, Ben is a friend, a dear
Okay,
brother. Like I said, a lot of people know me. I
okay.
presented on Hot FM,
Hot
the
FM,
hot
okay.
yeah, the Hot Money Show. I was
Mhm.
there. Then I left. I was at Hot FM for about a year, and then I left Hot FM and went to Kings FM.
Mhm.
Reason I had to leave is because of politics. The government, then the Salif government, told the owner of the station that as long as I was on the air, they wouldn't support the station by giving them, contracts. And the guy came to me. He was agonizing. I told him, I said, look, his name, Bernard Benson, DJ Blue. I
DJ
said,
Blue, yeah.
Blue, this is not, there's no issue here. This is your livelihood, and I'm just, a common presenter. I will find somewhere else. And then I left and went to Kings FM. At Kings FM, the infrastructure wasn't great, but we had a platform that we could speak and uninterrupted. And I was there for about 3 years, and so, like I said, we've been engaged. I was presenting what we call the segment, the George Kanneh Tulay segment of Talk About It on Kings FM and Cloud TV. And I was there. A young man called Alexander Bieder was the one who gave me that opportunity to come and work, even though the station was owned by the present president of Liberia. We were there because we were all part of members of the opposition at that time. So It was a platform where we could speak to the issues, criticizing Madame Sirleaf, but also offering workable solutions that she could use if they listened. But the truth is, in Liberia, nobody really cares as long as they're in power. That's the end of
All
it.
right. Thank you, George. Thank you so very much. Folks, the stage is set. I will now try to show you the things that we will be touching on as we discuss the topic, and we want you to also be part of the conversation, sending in your comments and all that. We will appreciate that. George, when I said not many people know you, I was just saying those who follow our platform.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
But in Liberia, man, who've been on the radio for that long, yes, of course. A lot of people know you and giving your engagement at a time as a media practitioner. So, folks, welcome. Let's get started here quickly. The topic is the CDC government actually pro-poor. So, what we will be doing, we will define what is pro-poor. We will look at the history of proporism, if you want to be a little bit satire there. And then when let's look at allocation of the budget. Is the budget proper? And we are also asking that question: is the CDC government budget proper? Because when you say proper, Josh, knows that very well. Knows that very well. It has to be what you do. It is not what you say. All right, then we'll look at the programs of the government, whether those programs are actually pro-poor. And then we'll look at government officials' lifestyle, the acquisition of properties and all that, and see whether or not they are behaving properly. Are the government officials, living properly? We will discuss that. And we want to see their efforts in terms of creating jobs, especially for the youth, because that is one of the ways you show that you are for the poor. And we will also say, well, can a mandatory owning of farm by officials or hiring mostly youth help? Well, we will look at all of these things so as we can arrive where whether or not the government is actually pro-poor. So let's get started, George. People are anxious, to see us discuss this topic. So let's start first of all by saying, George, this big talk, man, pro-poor. What is pro-poor? Let's go to the history a little bit. Where did the idea of pro-poor come from? What is pro-poor and where did the idea come from?
Pro-poor, the phrase pro-poor has been around for a very long time. Is an economic idea. Is an economic, is an economic so it encapsulates a set of policies that are really geared towards uplifting the poor from penury to a life where they can be comfortable. And it comes out of the World Bank adapted it, but it comes when we look at what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore, becoming the leader of a nation that was basically a fishing village and turning it into one of the economic powerhouses of today. And how he did it by focusing on the poor. There were the policies had prongs, and one of the prongs was literacy. All right, education and literacy, very, very, very important, because like you said in your intro, it's about policy. If it's not about just carrying a name. And if we look at the CDC-led government, they adopted the name pro-poor. No one gave it to them. They chose that name. They chose that name as a distinction. They said they were going to be a government of the masses. Now, if you say you're the government of the masses, you must be able to adopt policies, craft policies that will be tailored towards helping the masses. Now, like I said earlier, Lee Kuan Yew, we go back to Singapore. Now, when you look at life, when you look at history, there have been very few leaders that have really come about to implement pro-poor policies and be able to help the common people live better lives. And so when we look, like I said, one of the foremost proponent of the pro-poor policy was Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. came to power to a country that had a low literacy rate, or high illiteracy rate. It had stifling poverty, lack of infrastructure, um, poor health care system, and everything. And this guy looked at it and he said he was going to change that nation. All right, we know it to be a city state, right? And he came into Singapore and engaged the people, education, sensitization, information dissemination, getting the people to stand up with him and to embrace these policies. Because when the poor people do not embrace poor policies, trust me, especially when it comes to austerity, it becomes to them draconian measures. But when you communicate the policies well to the people and they adopt the policies, they birth themselves into your view, your vision, then it becomes something that you can implement and everybody will be on board. So in Singapore, the people got on board to the point that Lee Kuan Yew told the people that everybody would save 20% of their income, no matter how much you earn. And it was mandatory. So pro-poor policies are policies that are crafted for one goal, with one goal in mind, to improve the quality of life of the everyday citizen.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. And if I can come in here, I like the way you define pro-poor. Looking at the text or the wordings, it is policies, uh, actually programs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, targeted for the upliftment of the poor, the
Mm-hmm.
weak, and the
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
in any country. So when governments around the world, or when some governments, adopt pro-poor policy,
Mm-hmm.
their goal is
Mm-hmm.
actually to improve the material condition
Yeah.
of the ordinary people and the poor people, targeting the most essential sectors, like
Yeah.
smartly mentioned, education and
Health.
health, because
Food
it is
production.
their production. Now, these are the things that can uplift the people to create a middle income class. Because
Yeah.
when you have that, then you are taking your country from poverty, improving the standard of living, making
Mm-hmm.
people to realize that they are human beings too, that
Mm-hmm.
they can live a decent and fulfilling life. So you are
Mm-hmm.
right. But let's look at history a little bit. Thomas Sankara, who having to be, you know, somebody who carry on proper policy, is
Mm-hmm.
one person most African leaders are trying to emulate in terms of these proper policies that we're talking about. And
Yeah.
he was a very good example, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, who is Thomas Sankara? He was a captain in the military. We understand he went to Madagascar where he got his military training. And at some point, he became a revolutionary symbol of
Mm-hmm.
Pan-Africanism. And he also became a symbol of anti-imperialism. He was
Yeah.
a transformational soldier. He was
Mm-hmm.
a buoyant, military soldier. And the thing about him, at first, he rose to the rank of being prime minister, and then he became president, and he was a progressive president. How many years did he serve? He served for only 4 years, from 1983 to
It is.
1987.
Yeah.
This guy was so progressive. All his policies and programs were targeted at the ordinary people for their upliftment, to improve their material condition. And he even went as far as changing the name of his country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso meaning land of the upright men. So this guy pretty much he was like trying to be this politically righteous guy. Now, so talking about proper policies that he implemented, in matter of weeks, they got vaccinated about 2.5 million of his citizens, increased literacy from nowhere to 60%. And, he planted about 10 million trees. I can go on and on. And and this guy was not relying on foreign aid. All of the things that he did, Joe, you know the history well.
Yeah.
You are a media guy. And this
Yeah.
guy
But
used dollar money at some point, Josh, before you come in. They guys have mandated that clothes that are being used in Burkina Faso that time should be produced by only locals, thereby empowering the
Mhm.
locals. This is what we call pro-poor. You can come in now.
Yeah, and apart from that, he lifted up the place of the woman in the society, in
Exactly.
the Burkinabe society. All right,
Mm-hmm.
from being people who were relegated to the back of the room,
Mm-hmm.
he appointed them into cabinet positions. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and apart from that, he empowered them. Okay, looking at what he did, Jerry Rawlings did the same thing in Ghana with the 31st December Women Movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and apart from that, the planting of the trees and all of that are good, but look at austerity.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what Thomas Sankara saw was most governments that came after independence of these African nations, both British and French,
Mm-hmm.
they were just extension of the colonial powers.
Right.
The governments were just there to implement the policy of the former colonial masters. All right, there wasn't a clean break from colonialism. All right, the
Mm-hmm.
vestiges, the policies, the mentality, the colonial mentality still existed in those countries, and it was always like the colonial system acted like feudal lords. Right, the rest of the population were there just to for the aggrandizement of the few, and the thing continued in Burkina Faso. So coming into power, he sought to change that. And one of the things that tyranny, despotism, corruption thrives on is ignorance of the people. Is ignorance of the people. As long as the people have ignorance of their rights and their and having basic understanding, I talk all the time about something I consider that is called critical thinking. All right. I always say the education system in Africa, in Liberia, especially, does not lend to critical thinking. People being able to analyze things based on the sets of facts that they possess. So
Right.
it's because of low IQ and the lack of information. So what Thomas Sankara did was, in order to truly liberate the people of Burkina Faso, he decided to ensure that they will become educated. Information. Information. When people have the right information, they're able to make determinations on their own. You see, like we always say, government can do everything, but if the people do not have the right information, if the
Mm-hmm.
people do not have the right motivation, if the people do not have the right tools to work with, they won't do anything. They will always look up to you, and that's the environment in which tyranny, despotism, and corruption thrives. Because the
Certainly.
people sit like in a welfare state, looking
Mm-hmm.
up to see what you would drop into their mouths instead of
Mm-hmm.
standing out and going out to get stuff for themselves. Let me give you a common example. We're talking about pro-poor. Since Jerry Rawlings came to Ghana, when he came to Ghana, they had the same kind of issues that we have in Liberia today, and he transformed them by establishing the same kinds of Marxist, Leninist, uh, socialist ideology that you have to look at yourself and take care of yourself. It is about the good of the majority and not only you the individual.
Right.
And today, the Ghanaians have that mentality. They look, everything they do is try to look at what benefits their country. How is their country will be more beautified? How their education will be better? Their healthcare delivery system, everything. They have that patriotic mentality. So one of the things we need to also look at, without patriotism, you can really implement pro-poor policies
And and,
because
and,
you
and,
don't
and,
have to.
and and the patriotism you're talking about, one of the areas it starts from is the education. The education could mean leaders, teaching the people their culture, that they recognize who they are, seeing their self-value, that leaders will provide the education. It's not literally the book education that we're talking
No,
about. It may
no,
more so be that skills training, the emphasis should be on
thank you,
vocational education so that the
thank you.
people can have the necessary skills to be able to contribute to their country. But if they don't have these skills in this kind of training and the information about who they are, the country they belong to, the self value of themselves and their country, of course, it can't happen.
Hmm. You know, we're talking pro-poor, right? So
We're
we
talking
went
proper.
right now we're in Burkina Faso.
Right.
So like I said, the colonial masters kept the country stratified to be able to rule and keep control of the people. And that stratification worked at different levels, right? They elevated one group of people, and then below those there were another level, and then the rest of the people. And the rest of the people were kept ignorant purposefully so that they could be controlled. They were kept ignorant purposefully so that they could be controlled.
George, let leave the history a little bit. I love history. Let us come to Liberia, right? Because I will go here, looking at our topic to see whether our government that professes to be a pro-poor government is actually pro-poor. So, and the only way we're going to decide that or determine that, that's the right word, determine that is to look at the government policies, the government programs, the way officials conduct themselves. That is how we will know, because we can talk the history all along, because at some point, Thomas Sankara opposed his picture from being, held
Displayed.
in any offices in the
Yeah.
government. But
Yeah.
today, go in Liberia, every major office you enter, our president picture is there. And it's
If you
not
don't
only
have it
George, yeah,
there,
Ellen did it, president
yeah,
before him did it.
it
So
is,
we can
yeah.
go on and on with the history. But let's come to what are the things that we can look at to say, hey, our government is actually pro-poor. For example, let's start with what? The budget. That's the elephant in the room. So let's start with the budget. The allocation of the budget is the budget that we have had since our government came to power. Does it reflect that the budget is crafted for the upliftment and the improvement of the material condition of the poor? Please answer that question.
No. And this is the reason why. They lack basic understanding, those who are in government.
Mm-hmm.
There is one cardinal reason why any government exists.
Mm-hmm.
The people in the West understand that, but people in Africa, no. And the cardinal reason, the core reason why any government exists is for the improvement of the quality of life of the people. That thing should be in the background of every governmental policy that is implemented. How are the lives of the people taken from one level to the next, but in an upward trajectory? Everything cannot remain the same. That's why they do evaluation, do monitoring, everything. In Liberia, the budget reflects a mindset. It's not just about just the budget alone, but the budget reflects a paradigm, an established pattern of life.
Mm-hmm.
The budget reflects the fact that when you get into government, the resources of government are there primarily for you and those you appoint to work in government. The people are supposed to fend for themselves.
Wow.
It has been like that from St. Charlie Quintan. It hasn't changed. So as long as it remains like that, because like I said, when you look at all the implementation, let's look at something first.
Okay.
The Sankara we call the Lee Kuan Yew, the Jerry Rawlings, and everything, they had ideologies. They had a set of beliefs that they subscribed to. Unfortunately, the CDC led
And
government
just not just George, not just men beliefs. Those were core beliefs.
agreed. Agreed. And the CDC led government, unfortunately for us, George Weah was seen as a figure that they had to craft. People, guys that were around him, I could call some of their names, but I don't know. For me, I'm very bold. I can say these things, but this is my first time on the show, so I'll be very careful.
No, no,
These
no, no.
guys.
With me, once I'm here, you can call any name.
Oh,
The
okay,
only thing
okay,
you
okay.
cannot
But then,
insult them, but you can
okay,
describe
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
actions.
No,
Yeah,
no, I don't insult people, but I just
yeah.
speak the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac Vatokpa and those around him, they thought that Joshua would use their brain to think. They thought that's what they thought. They thought that he
Right.
would be able to use their brain to think. So as a result, they had the vision, they had the mindset, and they did not teach him these things. They want to use him as the political figurehead. All right. And that was very risky for our country. That is the reason why he has been hijacked by McGee and Samuel Tulay.
Yeah.
Because he's not a thinking man. He has no critical thinking skills. So as a result, the entire thing called pro-poor, even though some of the crafters, like I mentioned, as I talk about let me give full disclosure, I respect him very much. They had the pro-poor mentality. Atatürk has the pro-poor mentality. Unfortunately, he was sidelined. So there was an abortion.
That word you're using is diplomatic. He was ostracized.
Yeah, he was ostracized. And there was an abortion of the pro-poor mentality. There was an abortion. It never came to fruition. Okay, there was an abortion in the process. There was a miscarriage. And as a result, the whole thing was hijacked by greed. So right now, what we are seeing is, even though, like you said, let's go back to the budget because of time.
Let's go back to the budget. What I want from is the CDC budget pro-poor. That's what I want to know.
No, it's not pro-poor. It will never be pro-poor. Why? Because over 75% of the budget is on administrative recurring cost. There is little left in that budget for actual investment in infrastructure development, in education, in healthcare. There is very, very little left for agriculture. There is little left. When we're talking about the real trickle-down effects that will translate into the lives of the ordinary man, there is almost nothing left. Because most of the money goes into what you know, vehicles, gasoline, travel, salaries, and the different remunerations. As a result, very little, less than 25% of the budget is left there for the implementation of this project. And guess what? Out of that 25%, maybe more than 50% of that 25% will be stolen or misappropriated, as we would say. So as a result, the common man down the line, you know how we know it. The budget is not pro-poor because we still have high levels of maternal mortality rate, high levels of child mortality rate from age 1 to 5. We have high incidence of waterborne diseases. We have high incidence of cardiovascular deaths and ailments leading to paralysis and other things happening in our country. And none of these things are being addressed in a concerted way.
But just say it in a way that the ordinary man will understand. Hospitals are failing. The hospitals, some of them have become death camps. Hospitals have become death camps. Hospitals have become death traps because they are underfunded. The staff are not adequately trained. They are not being paid, salaries that would allow them to keep. So while we see corruption has surfaced, you talked about that earlier. Now tyranny, corruption, and all these things thrives when you don't have the proper training. So there are some professionals or some personnel that will take the medication from the hospital and carry it to their drugstore. These are the facts.
And let me tell you, the IDA, International Drug Agency, gives medicine through what's the name of the place at JFK again? Oh God. Bugger Bole is now the head of that.
It was National Drug Service. They changed the name to something else. Okay. So let's go with National Drug Service.
National Drug Service. So you know what happens there?
No.
The Ministry of Health got health officers in the counties. They come with their pickups to receive drugs to take to the health centers. Those drugs do not even get there. I got to a place where I became very investigative into the point that I started exposing people we've started recording their transactions in the night. They take those drugs and they sell it to the Indian and the other people who got drugstores around.
Drugstores, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the reason why these things are happening is because we do not have Liberia, we do not have patriotism in our blood. And patriotism is not no one is born with it.
Yeah.
It is something that is taught. It is something that is people can imbibe. They are not born with. They can learn as they grow up.
They can learn it. That's true. And so, folks, you are watching Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting. I got a gentleman here, George Tulay. This man is an experienced broadcaster. He had this engaged to focus on family and organize, himself a little more better because things got overwhelming for him. And just as things will always get overwhelming for some of us, sometimes to be frank with you, George, and those listening, I just get overwhelmed by these, multiple problems, and I see that our leaders there, the solutions are right there. Liberians are proffering some of these solutions. Just pick them up and just run with them for the benefit of our people. And these guys, they are drinking liquor in the night. They are riding free cars, and so like I'm told that the budget you are talking about. Look at how much is being allocated for the president. We have coronavirus now. They're not traveling. They are not going back to the budget to say, hey, we have, budgeted the huge amount for travel. Now that we're not traveling, can we go and move things around and send more money to the people? They will not do it. They will keep that money there because it's for the almighty president. Then we have the almighty speaker who's walking away with pretty close to $2 million. Then you have the almighty pro-tent, your almighty speaker, you have the almighty lobby. They are all almighty. And talking about the budget, we heard about this government trying to reduce salary yet and that, and then the idea is that for somebody to make at least 7,000 United States dollars, that is even too much. So when it comes to the budget is not pro-poor. It is all about them, improving their material condition and letting our people to fend for themselves. And George, you were right to have put it that way.
Anthony, let me just say something to you. Mm-hmm. Every day in Monrovia, people spend hours burning fuel, gasoline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Traversing less than 10 miles from EW Junction to say City Hall. Mm-hmm. Less than 12 miles. Less than 12 miles.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It had never occurred, and we live. Many of those people in government today lived in Western countries, mainly the United States, right?
Certainly.
And they have seen just simple traffic control, where they have traffic control signals up on top of the road, and during rush hour, the direct traffic based on the flow. Mm-hmm. More lanes are given to one direction.
One direction.
Yeah, more lanes are given to one direction based on the flow.
Like especially during that time, people are leaving work, right?
Yeah. So
and then in the morning, people are going to work.
So they move traffic. They allocate the lanes based on the time. If it's in the morning, they allocate more lanes going into the city. If it's in the evening, they allocate more lanes getting out of the city. Mm-hmm. We spoke on these things. I engaged the people doing Ellen Selif time. Nobody have been able to implement this thing. If you allocate just three, I'm just saying something. This calls for no money. This calls for no money, but it will improve the general well-being of the Liberian people that live in Pinsville, in parts adjacent. Mm-hmm. Just improve their quality of life. The kids don't have to wake up 4 o'clock or 5:30 to be at school. Just to improve the quality of life. You just allocate 3 lanes going to town every morning and 3 lanes coming from town every evening. Since there are 4 lanes, it will just help to ease the burden of the Liberian people. If you can't even do that, you think that money you will use for their well-being? If you can't just make a simple policy subscription to say this is what we are going to do henceforth. Every evening, when people are coming from town going to Pinsville and parts adjacent, they will have 3 lanes going into Pinsville. And every morning when people are leaving Pinsville going into town, we will allocate 3 lanes for the use of the traffic so that people can empty from the suburbs into the city to go to school and work on time. If you can't do that, you think you will take more, you will say, okay, let's even the harmonization that it did to say, okay, you know what? Thomas Sankara, what he did, he cut salaries across the board for every government minister. If you didn't want it, go home. We'll find somebody else that will come and take the job. Thomas Sankara appointed teachers and said the same salary you were making as a teacher, you will continue to make as a cabinet minister until things improve in the country. If you could survive on the salary of a teacher, you will still survive as on the salary of a teacher as a cabinet minister. Where am I going with this? It is about the people. It should be about the people. Policies should be crafted about the people. I get another thing that how many times you need to buy a car during one presidential term for one minister? Why can't we craft policies? Look at the amount of cars that the police will damage within a 6-year period. And there are no policies to say, how do we manage these things better? Bro, when you go to Ghana, just give me a common example. Right now in Ghana, the people still have cars, Ghanaian police still running cars from the 90s. They're still running cars in the Ghana police buses and things from the 90s. Ours, if a car can last 2 years with the Liberian National Police, then the problem is systemic. The rot is systemic. It's from the head, it comes down. So the budget is bad, but the people themselves lack discipline in how they live from day to day. So the problem is all over. You don't even know where to start when you want to discuss this thing.
I know, George. And so let us come into the programs of the government, the pro-poor government. I mean, let's see whether or not their programs are as well pro-poor as they are claiming. So let me list just few of them here. I don't know. I consider this a program, right? Because when the government came to power, the government, first of all, in their PAPD, they said, oh, they were going to create 1 million jobs in the first 6 years period. That's what they said. Now, that's a big talk. When it came to the implementation, what we saw was letters flying from the chairman of CDC, Momba Molu, sending these letters with names on them to officials of government, different agencies. I mean, that's the program that is pro-poor. How that going to help the thousands of young people that stood in the sun and rain for the government? But hey, that's the program, right? And then came harmonization. And according to them, harmonization was to reduce allowances, salaries, and another big word to use there to standardize, the income of all folks in the government. But what we saw is that instead of folks getting, a bond, because they said it was intended for people who were making little to get an increase, and those who were making more for them to get a reduction. But I mean, that did not actually happen. Now, another pro-poor program they talk about is paying your wife school fees, I know, for 12th grader and then 9th grader, tuition free colleges and university. So let's talk about some of these programs, Joe. Come in.
Okay, excuse me. All right, let's look at the issue of job creation. Okay, Madam Salib neglected to invest in the private sector. George Weah just stepped into it, the same trend, and refused to even acknowledge that the private sector even exists. To them, the private sector are the stores that the people can go to collect money every evening. That's their private sector, and then the concessions that are economic enclaves that are shut off from the ordinary Liberian. Only the concession workers actually benefit from those concessions. Yeah, and their relatives. Okay, when you look at Liberia, you look at the sending of memes. That's because they have not thought long term. Because one of the things that could actually be done with our country, because when you look at AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunistic Act, provides market shares for African countries for locally produced cash crops, okay, to be sold into European and American supermarkets and stuff. There are stipulations there under the World Trade Organization, so that these things can be done for the benefit of African farmers. The pro-poor, the most pro-poor thing any government can do in Liberia is to invest in agriculture. Is to invest. I mean, let me tell you something. There are a lot of investment capital out there for agriculture. If you put your house in order and you first thing you need to do is to deal with graft in the local government, clamp down on corruption, establish systems and structures of accountability. Then we go now to job creation. You won't have to be sending memes, list with memes to ministries and agencies for your people to be employed. There will be employment out there. There will be employment out there. They won't even want to work for government. They will want to go out there and look into enterprising. Okay, and it's not being done because they lack vision. Now you also talked about I forgot the last thing you mentioned.
I talk about the tuition.
Okay. The tuition, yes, is good. It's a very laudable and undertaking, but it wasn't well thought out. They don't have the money to sustain it.
So, are you saying that tuition, free colleges and university, is that pro-poor?
It's pro-poor. Okay. Yes, it is. But the intention is good. But the planning is lacking. The intention is good, but the planning is lacking. I just believe it's one of those things that they announce when you put pressure on it, and then they will announce a measure, and Liberian people will say, "Hey, it's like every time Liberian people, then you throw them one carrot, they're eating the carrot, they'll be shouting, "Yay!" Then they move on with more stealing. Okay, because that is a measure to placate the people. That's all. Because the truth is, this should have been done a long time ago. Liberia is not a poor country. It's not.
And why you say that?
Because we have natural resources. We have enough for every Liberian. We only got 4.5 million people, maybe 5 million if you here and there.
But Josh, if you look at our budget around $500 million, that is a poor country.
Yeah, no. The reason why it's around $500 million is because for years we have neglected to invest. We have neglected to invest into agriculture. We say subsistent in our mentality. Okay, our farming is agrarian to the level of the single man providing for his family, and whatever is left over, he can go sell in the market to be able to buy some more other things that he doesn't have. That is the mentality that we have. How do we change that? The reason why our budget looks small is because we don't have income generation capacity. We can't generate revenue except for
we're not growing the budget. We're programmed.
Yes, and the only way you can grow. Let me tell you something. Anthony, we were talking pro-poor, so this is in line with pro-poor, but it's not to criticize the government in particular. It's to establish the lack of understanding of how things work. They don't know how things work. Because if you know how things work, you will know that the way of the 21st century is food. Because even I don't care, we stay home doing the lockdown, people have to eat.
And people want to eat 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Okay.
And the money they're spending right there?
Yes. And if we grow the food, there will be market for the food. There will be market for the food. We have the land in Liberia. All we need to do is to craft policies. When we say pro-poor, take the poor man off the street, give him hope. Let him go back into the land. But I'll give you a common example. How many farmers want to go into Lopa County to plant crops when the trucks that go and collect the stuff, they waste the people food on the road in accidents because of the bad condition of the road? People buy their food produce and they can't get it to market because during the rainy season or other times, which is most time in a year, maybe 8 months in a year, the roads are impassable. So if the roads are impassable, Anthony, how can they get their crops to the market? The crops stayed in the truck, stuck in the mud. There's a backlog of trucks, and the produce can get to the market. The market women food, the supply is affected, demand increase, less supply, prices go high, less you can get for your money, and you say you're pro-poor. You're not pro-poor. You want to adapt it something to make yourself feel good.
Thank you, Josh. Again, folks, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is a special edition of the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C. I see a lot of you are commenting. We will very soon get to your comments. But let me do something here. Earlier, we asked the question, is the budget pro-poor?
No.
And according to George, the budget is not pro-poor because we see the bigger figure just go to what? Running their offices, and that's what
Yeah.
it is, and nothing
Yeah.
much is being allocated to improve the material condition of our people.
I
And if
love
you
that
people
word.
want us to, show you evidence of that, let me show this, George. Folks, look at this. This is the allocation for our counties, George. This is the county form. They call it a county development form.
Yeah.
Then there is, social development funds for the counties. Some counties don't have it because there are no complaints in those counties. So if you have this kind of insignificant amount allocated for county, and this is 2020-2021 budget, local bombing for what they call county development fund is $200,000 for bombing county. Do you know how much Buffer Chimon gets? He gets about $2 million.
$2 million.
Do you know how much President Weah gets? President Weah gets pretty close to $7 million. All right. Then you look at bombs. So all the counties get the same amount for county development funds. 200,000. Now, if you are from Grand Crew, where I'm from, there's no economic activities going, there's no complaint, let me put it that way. You get zero for what they call social development fund. Then another one they call CSC. All right, they just allocate 6,000 across the board for all the counties. This is laughable. So when George told you the budget is not for intended to improve the material condition of our people, just look at what you just saw. 200,000 for county development fund. Is not something to show that the budget is not pro-poor, it is not intended to improve the material condition of our people, then I don't know where else we have to look.
But we can. The budget is not a top secret. Is there for everyone to see. We can show it to you here. All right. Over 75% of the budget goes to recurring cost, administrative costs that you have to pay year in, year out, year in, year out, year in, year out, right. and it doesn't help the poor man. Look, let me be honest with you, right? We don't even have. Let me just give you an example. We don't even have an ambulance service in Monrovia that is outside of those run by the NGOs.
Are you saying JFK does not have an ambulance for emergency?
They have one or two, but it's not a service. Okay, Manasseh tried it, but it didn't work out because they're not funding the initiative. They're not putting money into it by making sure the vehicles are properly well taken care of, and drivers are there, paid properly and healthcare professionals, EMTs are put on these vehicles to ensure that the lives of people. JFK, it doesn't, bro. That's why I told you, I said sometimes I just got to a place, I got so fed up talking Liberia, I just kept quiet. Let's look at fire. Our entire metropolis of almost more than 1 million people living within Monrovia and its surrounding areas. We don't have a viable fire service. What kind of city you know of that can call themselves the national capital city of a country that do not have a viable fire service? That you invest money into, you're talking about quality of life. So when your house is burning, woe betide you if your neighbors don't come to help you fight and put that fire out. That's how bad it is.
George,
the fact, yeah.
George,
we're talking pro-poor. Okay,
yeah.
When you're implementing pro-poor policies, is for what? What word you use? You say for the material
condition, to improve the material condition of the people.
The material condition of the ordinary man. It means that you spend a lot of time thinking how you will improve his lot as he's under your stewardship. It doesn't just happen. A lot goes into planning and implementing policies to ensure that something is done so that man's life can improve. It doesn't happen by mistake. But if you spend the time stealing, trust me, I always tell people this thing: when a man gets into an office in Liberia, he starts to steal. His productivity drops.
And Josh, hold it right there. We are coming to that, folks. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we want to know whether government officials' lifestyle, all right? And then let's see, are the CDC government officials living properly? That is what we'll be talking about. And that segment is government official lifestyle, acquisition of properties. Some of you have seen some properties around. I don't hold back when it comes to this one. We'll talk about it when we come right back. So, folks, we are taking a very short commercial break, short break actually. When we come back, we'll read your comments and then we will talk about whether or not the officials of government are living properly. We've seen the proposal the way. The proposal is even expensive. All right. So stay tuned and we'll be right back, folks. All right, folks, thanks for staying with us here. This is Focus on Liberia and the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C. I have with me Mr. George Tulay. He is here and we are talking whether or not the government of Liberia is actually pro-poor. Let's read your comments and then we will go to our final segment. This is from Samuel Kalue. The CDC government is a kleptocratic government. I think that person is following Chris, who went after President. We are in a very tough way. Let's see this one from Hawa writes, whatever the idealism of the term is definitely not being applied. The Republic economic says it all, and the lavish lives of the leaders is not that ideology. So she's making the point that where they live is completely contrary to the ideology of pro-poor. However, again, the agenda, ideas of pro-poor agenda in other countries was funded for strategic policy framework, sustainable development target. That's clearly not it for Liberia. However, is based here. Let's see this one from this person, Duata. How can a pro-poor president have more budgetary allocation in the national budget than the previous president? Howard, now going a little historical here, Thomas Sankara was a patriot, not a hustler. He knew the importance of excelling his people from Western imperialism. Not Liberia. The people are getting conditions are getting worse, she meant to say. Well, let's see here. The folks are busy here writing, my man. Let's get this one from Patrick. Patrick, right? Josh, I agree with you, and it is a fact. All those leaders have seen for themselves firsthand the problems that their people face. They have the knowledge of what was really needed to tackle the problems with solutions. So they took on power and went straight to work, unlike George Weah. comparing President Weah with other leaders. Let's see this one from Tanon Gibson. This is a long one. We need more people who are for the common people and developing the country. This is why we in the diaspora or in rich countries need to come up with a way to start paying taxes that can be used to develop Liberia and help the Liberian people. It will increase our revenue if we in rich countries can start paying taxes. We have experts who can organize this in such a way that the taxes collected can be used properly, creatively, and without any waste. Designing a system takes intelligence to create. Thank you very much for that long one there, but very much on point. Hawa is basic. She's everywhere. Every comment is almost like Hawa. Edwin Snow Car, that what they can use when the citizens get sick, they make our people to believe that they are the one good. So what she's saying here is they're using Edwin Snow when people are sick in bombing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's hear from Jerry Wilson. I live in Ecuador, South America. Our president year's salary monthly is $5,000, while lawmakers are paid $2,800 monthly. Ecuador is the fifth largest exporter
Exporter. Bananas.
Exporter, of banana.
Plantain and flowers.
Yeah, platina. Is that plantain?
Plantain.
Okay, plantain and flowers. Country around the world. Okay, so around the world, they are exporting those things. Let's hear from Hawaii again. We can't pay taxes to looters who loot our common people taxes. Hawaii is busy and she's not holding back. Let's see. Let's hear from other people. Let's hear from Esther here. Esther writes, "It saddens to see that the lawmakers that are supposed to advocate for its people are the ones doing the opposite."
Anthony, let's take a pause here quick. Let me make a quick statement.
Go ahead.
Our people deserve the leaders they elect. I'll say it again. Our people deserve the leaders they elect. I will say another thing. Our people cannot grow over the example of the leaders that they have. You see, every Western nation, they had leaders that were reformers, that were transformers, that brought about ideas and policies that made their countries great today. If you go and you elect a charlatan to be your representative, you must be able to live with the charlatan results. We took riffraffs and miscreants and made them senators and members of the House of Representatives. And what do we expect of them? When the race is called, there are people who are well established, who are technocrats or educators in the race with miscreants. The Liberian people will leave the good people and go and elect the miscreants to represent them. So as a result, we have a national legislature that is in cahoots with the executive to rob the country of the little resources that are available for the people. So you cannot have anything done in Liberia.
So George, you are saying if you want to eat banana, you plant banana. You can't want to eat banana and go and plant pepper. When you put the pepper in your mouth, it start burning you. Then you say, "Oh, I want a banana." You can't do that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. If we want a good country, we will sit down. But you see, again, it comes back to the thing I said to you earlier: the lack of information, education, people, information dissemination. Our people are low when it comes to information. They cannot think critically because they don't have information that will help inform their decision-making process. So as a result, they will always elect people against their own self-interest. They will always elect people against their own self-interest. Case in point is George Weah. Let me establish why I said that. George Weah was a member of the Senate for almost 3 years or 2 years plus, right?
Yeah.
He never advanced any bill. He never had any press conference to challenge the policies and the excesses and the abuses of Madam Salif, not once. As the leading opposition figure, He never one day called people and said, Madam Sadi have done this, or the Sadi government is doing this. I think I need to speak to these issues. Not once in all those times. Also, while he was there, not once did the guy hold a town hall meeting to go to his constituents and say, what you people have to say so I can go and repeat it to be a mouthpiece in the national legislature. Not once. We saw all of those things, and the guy does not have a working ideology. He has never said, this is what I espouse. This is what I believe. This is what I live by. Nothing like that. We made him president. What do you think? Happy. The man got no published vision for the country. He never told you what he would do with your healthcare system. He never told you how he will fix education. So as a result, the first 3 months, you're talking about the point that you raised, the first 3 months Anthony the man came to power, what he did, he started building house for himself.
And so I will ask the question, George, is President Weah not a pro-poor president? Weah that is a pro-poor president.
At all. Look at the suits he's wearing. Look at the suits he's wearing. The man is living above the means of the people, and to hell with them. That has been the problem with Liberia. George Weah is not unique as Liberian leader when it comes to that.
I thought he was emulating Sankara. And that's how come they came up with this pro-poor ideology.
Sankara instituted austerity measures. He cut down expenditure. He eliminated wastage.
But the CDC government said they have reduced the salary of government officials.
Where is the money? Is the money being allocated to? You know what the reason why George Weah went around the counties these few days? Because that money was supposed to go back to the national budget. And instead of the money going back to the national budget, they got to eat some. I'm telling you today.
It wasn't because give me more. If the president is not living properly, if he's not a pro-poor president, give me more that point to reasons why he's not a pro-poor president. Why is he doing that is not pro-poor? You talk about clothes. I mean, that is not enough. I mean, the president need to dress nicely, right?
Mm-hmm. Just his budget, his office budget. Somebody raised the point that he increased his personal budget and that of his wife. That money could go into targeted expenditure for something. You know, I'll give you a common example.
Okay.
JFK, we don't have a cardiological center at JFK. It can be built with less than $2 million. We can build a fully staffed cardiological center since Liberians are prone to cardiological diseases, heart disease, stroke, heart attack, and all these different things, congestive heart failures. We're not addressing it. So when somebody falls off from among them, they put them on plane to take them to Ghana. But before you can even get the flight, that golden hour elapses and the person ends up dying. Why can't you create capacity to be able to address these things?
George, I don't mean to interrupt you. I have some agreement there. My memory is fresh. When the CDC government took over, they had to recast the 2017, 2018 budget, right? Mm-hmm. That Madam Salif, have left for them. In that recast budget, 500,000 was allotted for the First Lady, President George Manneh Weah's wife, for her use in how many months? 3 months. It was the same exact 500,000 in that recast budget that was allotted for JFK, the hospital that is set aside to take care of all Liberians, not only people in Monrovia. You could come from Grand Cru and come there. They had allotted the same exact 500,000 that they had allotted for the First Lady.
You see where the priority lies.
The president and his government not being pro-poor.
Yeah, but you see where the priority lies.
Yeah,
you see where the priority lies. Because the way you spend money, it tells you where your priority lies. It's as simple as that. If your priority lies in improving the material well-being of your people, you will look at healthcare, you will look at education, okay, and you will look at agriculture. Those three things, those three areas will be the focus of your budgetary allocations. Do you know how much? let go. Currently, Singapore. Do you know how many percent? What percent of their their budget goes toward education? 25%.
And for us, let me see. I have the budget here. And George, what the question I want to ask is that, I mean, talk to me. We can be the president here. He's supposed to be the leader. He's not leading by example. He's leading by bad examples, right? I mean,
Yeah,
this is a guy that takes over a poor country. This is
yeah.
a guy that has lived the best of life, that play with money all around. He has no shortage of material wealth at
Mhm.
some point in time as an icon of soccer. And he comes to power as though this guy is a hungry man in so much rush to demolish his house on 9th Street, not satisfied with that one, building gigantic condominiums. And so the likes of Tulay, Mange will secure, I mean, what they call $250,000 loan from one of those banks, and his mansion was
It's a lie.
erected in no time. And then Wolokoli and the likes of Tulay, they all follow. The leader set a very bad example. And these guys are telling us that they have come with a pro-poor policy. Look at
No,
their behavior. And
no.
look, I read an article some time ago, George. You are a man who in this media business. The article talk about the cars that president we are using. The pro-poor president, if you look in his convo, you see cars value as 250,000, pretty close to $250,000.
Or
That is
more.
what our president is using. And
Agree.
yet this government will allot only $200,000 for an entire county development funds. That
Okay,
is
okay,
shameful.
okay. Like I said to you, it shows you where their priority lies.
Mhm,
Um, if you get sick in Lofa County,
mhm,
in most of the districts in Lofa County, you own your own.
mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? You on your own.
Right.
If someone half trained nurse aide or PA and give you the wrong medication to kill you earlier, you on your own. That's the reason why we have our life expectancy is below 47 years.
Mhm,
I'm telling you, yes. Our life expectancy in Liberia is below 47 years. Our IQ is below 64. Okay? The reason is because the priority of our leaders lies only within their own bellies and their families. Because if you look at it's not unique to George Weah, but he's the one leading right now, so we use him as our point of reference.
Oh yeah, because this is a change government, right? This is supposed to be a
Yes,
complete
yes.
departure from the
I was
past.
there. I was there. I was on when we were the ones criticizing Madam Sedif. We criticized them for everything. Trust me, the things that they are now practicing, have been multiplied. What they saw Madam Sedif doing, they are doing exactly what they saw Madam Sedif doing. Exactly. They only increase it in intensity. They seem dishonesty. They seem lies. They seem using the courts to get back at political opponents. They seem misappropriation of budgetary, and now they're talking about printing more money. Because okay, give you a common example. One minister car will cost about 120,000 US dollars. The Toyota Land Cruisers you see them driving
Mhm.
around.
Right,
Or
right.
if it's bulletproof, then we're talking about 20,000, like the car that 12 Maggie drive. It's more than $200,000. Those cars can buy the $60,000 Toyota Land Cruiser two door, long body for ambulances. We need ambulances because we don't have the infrastructure. So we
Mhm.
need to put mobile clinics into the counties to educate our people and to help them to fight waterborne diseases, to help to increase to eradicate infant mortality and maternal mortality. You can send out health teams into the counties that you have to fund so that they can go out there and be able to help to improve the living standards of our people in terms of health.
Yeah, I mean, just to share health preventive information with our people.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
best
and
care,
so and then they'll also use that to collect data and statistics, and
Mhm.
then also again, people who are very sick, they can also use those vehicles to ferry them to health points like the Basel Hospital or Phoebe or any of these points, or Corin in Lofa or the Telewian Hospital, or the Jackson Dole place. what if you intend, if you have the intent, if you have the mindset to be able to be a blessing to your people, you will be a blessing and not a curse. Unfortunately for us, this government is a curse because they have turned a blind eyes to they turn blind eyes rather to the plight of our people. Our people are fending for themselves, and the only thing that happening, the hole that they're in gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It's in Liberia, it's the survival of the fittest. If you get money, I was sick. Let me give you a common example, bro. I was sick for a couple of years. I was diagnosed with having some heart issue. I went around. I had to fly all the way to Thailand. Yes, I had to fly all the way to Thailand at the beginning of 2014 to go and get my heart checked out. How many Liberians can afford to fly to Thailand to get or to go to India to go and get a heart checkup? Why can't we create the capacity? You don't even need $5 million. $5 million, just 5 million. So what they can do every year, they can target something specifically. Say in this budget year, we're taking $10 million and we invest it into JFK. Just 10 million into JFK this year. That's all we're doing in the budget. 10 million. The next year, we're taking another 20 million and we're investing it into public schools, making sure that they have books for the kids to read. Our reading level in Liberia is atrocious.
And George, let me interject there. You remember quite recently when President Ria went to Tomahawk, right there in the heart of Monrovia, and he acted like he was angry, right? Because the roof, leaking, no better chairs, the wall is like, I'm not painted, the chalkboard completely impossible to write on. And he acted like he was angry. And what did he do? He took no action, zero action.
No action.
And what action could he actually have taken when the budget for education is meaningless, especially to the Montreal Consolidation School System? He can't take action against the education minister because how much you put in there in the first place. So the problems are just all over the place, and leadership is lacking.
Just listen to this. If to say in the year 2022, they say, okay, we in our budget, we will squeeze out 20 million.
Right.
And we will invest into schools. That money can go a long way. That money can go a long way, Anthony. $20 million. Say we're taking $20 million only into school this year. The next year, say $20 million into our healthcare facilities. Let's stop. Look, what made Thomas and Cabra, Jerry Rollins, and the rest great? The John Magufuli. They stop depending on foreign aid to take care of their responsibilities. Uhuru Kenyatta was just praising John Magufuli after he passed at his demise, and saying that this man showed us how we can use African resources to take care of African problems. The problem with us is the lack of understanding on how things work. We come to the West, we go to school, but we fail to cast our eyes to understand the bigger picture, how the systems work, the system that we partake of, we benefit from, we live in, we experience on a daily basis. We fail to look to see how they work. As a result, we are running a country ignorantly. The people who run Liberia right now, they are Samuel Tulay is just a talker. He has no working capacity to change to effect economic policies. McGee is a murderer. He wanted there to send people because he was part of MPP to make sure that people who are against the government, who expose corruption, they end up dead in cars. These are the things that we are talking about. This is me. Now you're saying it so nobody can sue you.
So Josh, what evidence do you have to say Nathaniel McGill, the de facto president of Liberia, minister for presidential affairs, the brain of the president, is a murderer?
Okay, let me tell you something. The guy who was killed from the from the auditing agency, he's almost a cabinet level official or just sub cabinet level official.
Are you talking about NewsWap?
Nobody kills a cabinet level official. Listen to me. Nobody kill a cabinet level official in a country like Liberia without the president's approval. They'll be held to pay. I can tell you, I've operated with Liberian National Police. They know all the murderers in Liberia. I'm telling you today.
Wow.
The Liberian National Police know, listen, I'm saying it on your medium, it's been recorded, they can watch it. The Liberian National Police know who all are capable of murdering people in the night in Liberia. They know who all are armed robbers alone, those who just go out to arm rob. They know the Chastity rebels, the ATU boys who killed that American colonel that were in jail. They are free.
Yes, I remember that.
They are roaming Liberia right now. They know them. Okay. So if the Liberian National Police, I'm telling you, the anti-robbery squad, if they want to arrest the murderers of Yenswa, believe you me, 1 week will not pass except the person is out of Liberia. I am telling you today, except the person is out of Liberia, they know what's going on. So nobody can tell me that continuously 4 or 5 persons were murdered with not a single person brought to book, except those who are innocent. I'm telling you today, a cabinet level official in government past was murdered and no help has been brought to bear. The president is, you didn't even hear him speaking forcefully to the issue to say, I have promised the nation today that this thing will find the culprits who perpetrated this heinous act. And I'm going to make sure that every law enforcement agency is at work to apprehend the murderers. You never heard him saying anything? Bro, I know how Liberia works. The president is an emperor. Nobody does anything in that country without his say so. The issues that Peters and the rest of them found out that they were going to expose, okay, they were going to expose were the issues that caused their demise, that caused their murder. And I can tell you today, one day, these people we brought to book, okay, in Liberia, we have no statute of limitation for murder. There's no statute of limitation for murder. So we know who all are the perpetrators. I know some of these guys. One of them was my co-worker in the past. He works for George Weah right now. I know these guys personally. I know what they're capable of doing. They will do anything for money. So if you ask me, I may not have, prima facie evidence to present in court, but we know that in Liberia, nobody will kill the director general of a governmental agency and the president is not part of it, or he doesn't know who did it, and he doesn't hold anybody to account. It's not possible.
All right.
It's not possible.
Josh, you got yourself in trouble. Focus on Liberia will always reach out to you for your thoughts. And because Liberia needs men and women to speak to the issues that matter so that we can develop that country. Is the only country that we have. I continue to say we must improve the material condition of our people. That is the essence of governance. That is the essence of leadership, political leadership for that matter. It's not about you coming there and making sure that your bank account is fat, that your fence, that a 10-year-old boy could just look and see the roof of your house is now cannot be seen anymore because you are a minister. Yeah. We don't want that. And so, George, thank you so very much. Thanks to the folks that have been following us here at Focus on Liberia. I guarantee you I'll bring this gentleman back again or another time, maybe very shortly, and maybe he will try to get a little frequent here at Focus on Liberia so that we can talk about these things. He has experience.
Anthony, right now I'm going to a period I will have a lot of time on my hands. I am available, for us to have these conversations because the truth here is we cannot abandon Liberia.
Oh no, we can't.
We cannot. And the only thing we can do is to make sure we pass along information that will cause people to start thinking critically.
Right.
Yeah. It's so difficult, right? It's so difficult. The level of poverty in our country is grinding. Bro, people. Yes, I used to work in what's the name of the place in Banga. I used to see. Yes, I saw. Maybe in Monrovia I was kind of insulated, because of busy schedule. So I was kind of insulated from the poverty. But I saw the poverty, Anthony. I saw the poverty. I saw the poverty with my eyes. Yes. I saw kids coming from school. They had to go sell rotten chair to be able to buy 1 or 2 cups of rice to take back home for the parents to cook for them to eat for the day.
All
I
right.
saw poverty.
George,
Okay. I see. You're
yeah,
talking
time
about
is our
advertising.
enemy, but hold on. I will bring you in for your closing statement. But
Yeah.
before I can bring you in, I need to share some things with our audience watching and folks so we can thank you enough, for always following our program here. We got some exciting shows coming up, and I want to share that with our audience and George for you to also come and watch. It will be on March the 31st. That is Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a gentleman by the name George. George will be here. He's a graduate of the Poro and Sandy Society in Liberia. So basically, we'll be talking about the Liberian culture. He graduated from the Poro and Sandy Society School in Liberia. There are some morals, that have been taught by this particular institution, and he will come to share them. And also, we will have here on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time Dr. Ibrahim Yen to talk about foreign direct investment. In Liberia, we talk about economic exploitation in Liberia from 1920 to 1960. This will be interesting. He will talk about taxation. We'll talk about the Firestone and LPMC, LMC. All right. Yeah. So we'll talk about that as well. And then wait for the big one. Don't go, folks. On Saturday, FOL Marketplace, that is our business and economic forum here, usually comes on every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have Dr. George Gumpool to talk about the printing of new Liberian bank notes. Our government is trying to print 48.7 billion Liberian dollars. And he will also chime in on this statement by the U.S. Representative Christopher Smith, who described our government as kleptocratic. And kleptocratic is a government that is headed by fools whose only intention is nothing but to steal. That is what he will also chime in on. This is the big one that I've been waiting to share with you. Liberian people like to make things big. His Excellency or Vice President Joel Howard Taylor, Chief Joel Howard Taylor, will be live on Focus on Liberia. That will be March the 29th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. GMT, live right here at Focus on Liberia. And we will be talking about this woman's life. We will talk about the Charles Taylor factor, and she is coming here to see how she can redefine herself because to a certain extent she is being misinterpreted. So, George, that is all that we got lined up. At this time, I will get back to you for your closing statement. Liberians are in despair, you know it. You talk about the poverty that they are experiencing is grinding. The realities are stuck against them in a negative way. What message do you have for them? Is there hope at the end of the tunnel here?
It's hard to see hope. I'll be frank with you.
Well, we have a government that is for hope for change, and you said no hope.
No, it's hard to see hope. The reason why I say it's hard to see hope is because I'm looking at paradigms.
Mm-hmm.
Paradigms are systems of thoughts that inform our daily actions.
So the trends of things are not positive.
I'm looking at those who are even thinking about coming into power. Are they reformers? Because without reform, if we do not elect a reformer at the head of Liberia, this cycle will continue.
Josh, we have to bring you back to talk about the opposition too, but get your closing statement in so we can take leave of you.
It was nice being here. It was nice being here, brother, and I appreciate it. And I know fully well that I will be back again. I love it. I love exchanging these ideas with you and examining Liberia for what it is and what it portends. And I pray, but to be honest with you, the prognosis is bad because corruption is ingrained in our society. Corruption is enshrined. It has a place of worship peaceful existence in our common in our body polity. So I don't see change because I see people waiting in the wings, and all they want to do, like the CDC, is when they come to power is to enrich themselves at the expense of the common man. So I don't see change. I'm being honest with you, and we'll continue to engage, continue to talk. The change will come in Liberia when the people themselves change and begin to demand more from their leaders. Because before I leave, when the people got fed up with Omar al-Bashir in South Sudan, they chased him from power. They got fed up with tyranny, they chased him from power. When they got fed up with the guy in Mali, they chased him from power.
Okay. Barak in Egypt,
they chased him from power, ended up dying in prison. So the reason why I'm saying this is this: the day the Liberian people can say we demand, we want more, our birthright, because when God made us Liberians, he made every Liberian to be a partaker of the natural resources within the geographical define of what we call Liberia today. It's for all of us. It's not for a select few, okay, that chooses to put the rest of us down and only did themselves to enjoy the wealth of the nation. So until Liberians can rise up and say, this is ours, it's our time to demand that more, what God created for us to partake of, we want to partake of it, we will remain in this vicious cycle of corruption and lack and wastage and hopelessness.
Thank you, George. That is George Tulay. George Tulay surely has something to offer to our nation, Liberia. Thanks so much for your perspective on the topic that we brought for you. Is our government pro-poor? And he said, actually, the government is not pro-poor. And in his closing, whether there is hope, he said, you're talking hope. I don't see it. I'm looking at the happenings in the country. Those happenings don't point to hope. But he said, hope can come when the people themselves come to realize, oh, this is our country too, and you are not treating it right. So we want the right things. Then that hope will come. I couldn't agree with George. And many of you always want to get my closing statement. Do I see hope? Yes, I see hope. But where do I see hope? I don't see the hope in the physical structure or the physical geographic space, Liberia. I do not see that hope. I see that hope in the minds of some Liberians. And so other Liberians need to pick up that hope that is in the minds and consciousness of some Liberians. But what I see is a government budgeting 200,000 for country development fund, and you think that is hope? No. But in my mind, I see my Grand Crew County getting maybe $50 million every year. That sounds like hope. But right now, there is no hope because the budget itself is not projecting hope. Folks, we have to leave it there. Thank you for following. We'll let you know you saw the exciting programs that are coming up. Stay tuned to Focus on Liberia. Like our Facebook page. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get all the education you can get so that you can be in a better place as a citizen. Our Focus on Liberia is about educating, elevating, and promoting all things Liberia. I'm sincere saying to you, bye-bye. And enjoy this song. This nationalistic song that says we are all Liberians. Bye-bye, folks. Just thank you.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Liberia.